Good morning, Chair.
Morning.
Good morning. My apologies for joining you slightly late, although my computer does say 9 o'clock. I'm just glad we're all together here. Just for the record, I'm Rodriguez van der Western, Chair of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Environmental Affairs and Development Planning. And I wish you all to welcome you back to this process of working through the bills, the proposed legislation. And I do hope that we would be able to finish this today by noon, so that hopefully next week we would be able to have our final mandate, or finalizing the final mandate. I just would like first the honourable members to give an opportunity for them to introduce themselves.
Good morning, Chairperson and everyone. Matrodi Maseko, member of the committee.
Good morning, Hartman, member of the committee.
Good, thank you. And then I received an apology from Honourable Marin. Do we have other members on today as well? None. Thank you. And then also welcome to Ms. Niekerk, who was so kind to quickly assist me to log in. And then can I quickly ask from the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning? Who do we have?
Good morning, Chair. Paul Hardcastle and Anique Rousseau is also with us. Apologies from Ayub Mohammed. We've got a few meeting classes this morning.
Good. Thank you very much. I think you also submitted his apology to our procedural officer. And then can I ask the other members that we have are the legal advisors or the state law advisor from first the Department of the Premier, and then our colleagues here from Provincial Parliament, if they could just also introduce themselves.
Good morning, Chairperson. This is Michelle Mellem, State Law Advisor in the Department of the Premier.
Welcome, Ms. Mellem.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Romeo Master, Legal Advisor, Provincial Parliament. Morning to everyone else.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Andre Leroux, Legal Advisor to Provincial Parliament.
And then thank you very much for the advocates for assisting us in this way. Any other support staff? I see our ICT staff who are often quite silent and working in the background, although I must tell you, I think since the end of March of this year, I can hardly imagine people having had to cope with so many challenges in such a short period. But I see Mr. Abbas's name is on here. And then I also see that it seems to me Mr. Johan Vermeulen is also just assisting us there in the background. Any other people that I haven't mentioned? Good. Thank you very much then. Now, by now, I think we all know the rules of these online meetings, and that all microphones are to be muted unless you want to take part in the discussion. And then that only the speaker's video should be on to assist us also in terms of our bandwidth restrictions that we sometimes indicate. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, and should you require assistance at any stage, please contact our ICT staff who are on standby for this very purpose. Now, at our last meeting, we dealt with, I almost want to say, the first half of the proposed amendments. We went clause by clause up to page 20, and I think the last clause we dealt with was clause 32. If I'm not mistaken. Ms. Niekerk, perhaps you can just help me whether I'm correct.
That's correct, Chairperson.
Good. Thank you very much. So the next one to consider, members, if it's fine with you that we delve into the bill again, What I can just say, and I do hope you've all received that, is that since our last meeting, we have now received the feedback from the National Department of Environmental Affairs on the public input that we've received and that we have forwarded to them. And obviously, I think it would just benefit us to always also look at their input in terms of their comment, because obviously they were the original drafters of this bill, and therefore I believe that their input is quite valuable in giving us some insight, and it may answer some of our questions that we may have. Perhaps I could just quickly ask Ms. Niekerk, you have then kindly put their responses, or they did it themselves. You drew up the matrix, and they then used our matrix to also comment in this regard. Am I correct?
That's correct, Chairperson.
And that document was forwarded to us as 3 documents, actually. Am I correct?
That's correct. It was sent out last week on Thursday. There are 3 documents attached. The one is for the National Forest Amendment Bill, and then there's the NEMLA, and they've also included a separate response to the Centre for Environmental Rights. So that's the 3 documents that we have. All right.
Good, thank you. And those were numbered A, B, and C, those documents.
Correct.
Can you just help me, the one that you believe we should be having in front of us now?
Chair, just for clarity, are we starting with the National Forest Bill, or are we going straight into NEMLA now?
My intention was for us to continue where we left off last time with NEMLA, clause 32.
Okay, then the document, the annexure that we should be looking at is annexure B. Annexure B for NEMLA.
So can I ask honourable members that you please just make sure that you have that document in front of you together with the bill, please. Good. Okay. Are we all then on the same page? So you've got the National Forest Amendment Bill, page 20, open in front of you. And then in terms of the documents that we've received last week, we would now be dealing with Annexure B. Just myself quickly make sure that I'm on the right page as far as that is concerned. Good. Are you ready, honourable members? Can we go then straight into the bill? I think our intention was, when we dealt with the different clauses, was that we were happy to support the clause number 32 as it stands. Sorry, we finished 32. 33, we will deal with it as it stands. 34, at 34, there were a number of comments that we've received. The City of Cape Town asked about or requested that there must be some time limits for all appeals. Otherwise, these files remain open indefinitely. Then there was a concern expressed, as you will see there, 34 and then insertion 43A, towards the end of that, it says in the case of municipalities, the appeal will be to the municipal council, and there was a question on whether municipal councils are competent to deal with such issues. And then there was also from our provincial department the comment that they wanted the wording to read as follows: the municipal council may decide an appeal in terms of section 43(1) to 6 where appropriate. Good. So, honourable members, perhaps if you don't mind, I think we must first try to stick to the first part of that clause 34. Can I ask, is it Mr. Hardcastle? Sorry, yeah. Would you just like to motivate your input again?
Chair, now I must catch up you with clause 34 now.
34, clause 34, where it says that appeals, any person may appeal against a decision made by the licensing authority of the National Environmental Air Quality Act, and in the case of municipalities, to the Municipal Council. I think what it says is that, normally, let's say the municipal manager or a delegated official would be dealing with appeals, with the applications, but then in the case of appeals, it must be referred to the Municipal Council.
Yeah. Yeah, Chair, I just quickly see where we are on the matrix so that I can just double check that I'm on the right place now. So I apologize. I'm also trying to make sure that I'm at the right place here.
No, I accept that for us just to find the same speed as we did last would be a little bit difficult.
Chair, can I raise a point of clarity, please?
You're welcome, Honourable Bartman.
Thank you, Chairperson. Unfortunately, I was ill at the last meeting, and I don't want to take everyone a step back, but I wanted to just find out, are we now discussing the clauses, or are we putting forward suggestions? Where's the rest of the committee in the procedure? I just would like to catch up from the last meeting, Chairperson. Thank you.
No, you're welcome, Honourable Bartman. What we did was we went through the documents, first the Forests Amendment Bill, and now the National Environmental Management Laws Amendment Bill, clause by clause. And we were able to and we've said this is provisional, and that we would be considering the department's input, once received. So in terms of this bill, we came up to clause 32. Where there were no comments or where there were no questions or proposals from our side, we could go quite fast. But obviously, where there have been comments or where we have certain ideas or questions regarding certain clauses, we then inserted that. So the idea now that I propose is that we continue as we did last time, and then until the end of this bill, and then we will go back first to the Forest Amendment Bill and then to the first 32 clauses of this bill, and just see whether our comments or concerns or proposals last time perhaps may have been addressed by the feedback that we received, whether we would like to change our views on certain clauses that we've expressed. And we fortunately have, in terms of the minutes of the last meeting, we have those clauses where we did comment or where we did raise questions. And I do hope that we would be able to then move quite quickly through that. Okay. So we're now with clause 34. And the first request was that appeals should have a time limit. A person cannot come and appeal after 2 years against the decision. And secondly, which apparently is the case currently, and secondly, that there was this question whether appeals by an official could go to the municipal council to decide. Therefore, it's then been transferred from the administration, I almost want to say, to the political part of a local government. And there was a proposal by our Western Cape Department of Environmental Affairs to say that the municipal council may decide an appeal in terms of section 43(1) to 6, where appropriate, that the words where appropriate should be included there. Okay, and I do hope that that also gave Mr. Hardcastle a chance to also just catch up and see where we are currently. I can just say the Friends of Stellenbosch Mountain, they proposed that the amendment be modified, that the reference to the municipal council should not be inserted. And instead of designating municipal councils as appeal authorities, that it should rather be, in the case of appeals lodged against a decision made by the municipal manager of a municipality or any person acting under his or her delegated authority, the appeal authority shall be the MEC of the province within which the municipality is located. Good. Now, in terms of the national department's response, and I do hope you have that open, and I'm going to read because I think then you will be able to see whether we all have the same document and the same page open. And that's a document, as Ms. Nikat indicated, Annexure B, Provincial Stakeholders, NEMLA 4, DEFF Responses Final, that is the file name. They say no amendment proposed. The Section 28 empowers the DGs, HODs, and the amendment will also municipal managers to issue directives in the case of significant pollution or degradation to the environment. NEMA currently provides that the appeal against such a directive must be submitted to the Minister or MEC as the executive heads. For the sake of consistency, the appeal against the Section 28 directive issued by municipal managers should also be submitted to the executive head. Local authorities have original constitutional functions allocated to them in terms of Schedules 4 and 5 of the Constitution, which they have exclusive executive jurisdiction. It would therefore not be appropriate to make the MEC the appeals authority. Okay, so the proposal then is just that we stick there with the wording that the appeal should be to the municipal council. So can I propose that we adopt that as it stands? I don't think it's for us to decide on whether municipal councils are competent enough to deal with these aspects. But then I think I must say the issue of the time limit imposed, I don't know if the National Department referred to that in their comment. I couldn't find that. Perhaps our legal advisors could just help us in that regard.
Chair, maybe Paul Hardcastle, maybe I can assist here, and just highlighting that there is regulations drafted for appeals in terms of this section, and the regulations are very clear on the time frames within which to submit appeals. So it's not captured in the in NEMA itself, but it's captured in regulations.
Okay, and you are happy that files will not have to remain open indefinitely, therefore?
Yes, Chair, it's clear.
Good. Thank you very much, then.
Chair, Deirdre Bartman, I'm not sure if my hand function is working.
No, please, we're a small enough group, and I'm afraid some of the documents I have open on my screen, so it helps if you just announce yourself and start talking.
No problem, thank you, Chair. For the similar reason, I actually came to the office so that I can have all 100 documents open in front of me. Chair, I think that as a comment on this proposal, that I do support keeping the municipal council in for the process of appeal, because it is my view that if a particular organ or institution is the place where you allow the directive to be issued, then that is the organ or institution that should be the first door that you knock on in terms of appeal processes. So I am happy about that, and I'm satisfied with the fact that the timelines are in the regulations. Thank you, Chairperson.
Good, thank you. So what we're saying is we are happy then for clause 34 to stand as it is. That brings us then to clause 35. In clause 35, there was a request that we also include the word instruction in certain paragraphs. For example, when it speaks to 5A, 5B, and section 31I2 and 31P. Mr. Hardcastle, would you just quickly like to point out where you would like that word? We already see there with, can I call it clause 35? And sorry, Honourable Bartman, when I refer to clauses, I refer to the bill. When we refer to then paragraphs, then we refer back to the original act. So now in clause 35, the paragraph B, you will see, for example, in line 25, they already speak of an instruction of an environmental management inspector. Did I hear Honourable Maseko?
Chairperson, it's Deirdre Bartman again, apologies.
Yes, welcome.
Chair, so I just wanted to get it straight now. I supported the department's proposal to amend clause 34. Am I correct? In the previous one now. Clause 34 of the bill, which amends the section 43 of the Act, as per the matrix that was submitted.
Okay, so perhaps we must let's go back. It's good that we have clarity on that. So the time limits input, that one we discarded. Then the next one is then from the department, provincial department. You wanted that it says the municipal councils may decide an appeal in terms of section 43(1) to 6 where appropriate. Is that an insert that you would like? Is the change, Mr. Hardcastle, you just help us there? Where do you want that to be inserted?
Chair, just as you said it now, just after the words, so that it's where appropriate, because it's not in all instances a municipal council that would decide it. So it's the words where appropriate is a logic addition to it. Yeah. I don't have anything.
Yeah, so you want, it currently reads that any person may appeal against the decision in the case of municipalities to the municipal council. And you want the words where appropriate to be added, although it already says that in the case of municipalities, it will be the municipal council. Do we need, doesn't in the case of municipalities already tell us that where the municipality is the appropriate authority?
Chair, I just want to check something. I just have to get our original comments. Anik, if you can maybe just check our original comments. But I think, Chair, look, if we lose the where appropriate, it's not going to be the biggest train smash that you can think of. But it provides clarity that the municipal council, sometimes when, for instance, a municipality will be the applicant, then obviously, then in such instances, the council would not be the appeal authority. So in all instances, somewhere else in the legislation, also you find the words where appropriate being added to clarify that it's not in all instances the case that the council will be the appeal authority. But it's an interpretation issue, Chair. I'm not going to be fixed on that wording being included.
Chairperson Deirdre Bartman.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you, Chairperson. Okay. Chair, I understand now, because previously when I was indicating my view, I was indicating my view based on the matrix that we received from the department. I would personally like the words appropriate to be inserted, because even though my view is that you should appeal at the institution that issued it, in some cases, for example, in the court system, sometimes you appeal to a higher authority because the original institution isn't necessarily the best place or the most appropriate for that appeal to occur. So if everyone is okay with that, I would like to propose that the proposal in the matrix, as per the department, that we supported in terms of their particular wording. Thank you, Chairperson.
Can I just get clarity? So the words, when appropriate, you want to be inserted?
Yes, please, Chair.
But after to the municipal council, or where, what position? Is that in 1C of the bill?
So that would be, so that it reads here that the proposed amendment is to the Act, but that obviously has to be inserted as a clause into the bill, because it's not currently a clause in the bill, if I'm reading it correctly. So it reads here on page 48 of the matrix, on the department's comments, proposed amendment, section 43(1) to 6. And the proposal reads that it is proposed that the provision should be made that a municipal council may decide an appeal in terms of section 43(1) to 6, where appropriate. So when we then go to 43(1) in the Act, let's quickly go to the Act.
You mean said, oh, 43, yes, sorry. Getting confused with the 34 and the 43.
Sorry, Chair, I'm just trying to find the words, the words municipal council in the Act quickly.
I know. We have a lot of documents open. So in the original
Yes.
Act, we have 43, which deals with appeals, and then we have paragraph 1A, B has been deleted, and we now want to insert a 1C, or that is what the bill proposes.
Chair, Annie Rousseau from the Western Cape.
Yes,
may I perhaps just add something at this stage? Hi. I'm just having a look at the bill, section 43, subsection 8, which specifically speaks to when the municipal council would be the appeal authority. So I'm just wondering whether I see the National Department's response indicates that clause 34 already remedies this issue. So I'm wondering whether they're not referring to section 43, subsection 8 of the bill, which brings in the municipal council as the appeal authority.
Yes, correct. I think we're on the same page. We're on the same page. The only question is just whether it wouldn't be clearer. As a matter of fact, when I went through this, I actually made a note in the margin to say, would it not have read a lot easier if it was in table format? You know, saying an appeal against a municipal official is the appeal authority is the council. An appeal against a provincial officer is the MEC, you know. But it seems to me as if, you know, we try and steer away from these tables within pieces of legislation. So the question is just then, must we have the words then, or to the municipal council where appropriate? Just that insertion.
In the beginning of in subsection 1.
Yes. 1C, but it also could also be in 8, the one that you've now referred to. And the question is just, you know, will anybody reading the legislation be thrown off if the word where appropriate is not inserted in there?
Chair, Department.
Yes, and can I also then ask for our legal advisors to also advise us on this? Honorable Bartman.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, the department needs to just clarify to me quickly because I think I'm speaking past them and they are speaking past me. When I look at the bill, Clause 34. Clause 34 attempts to amend Section 43 of the Act, but the Section 43 that it attempts to amend is subsection 7 and 8 and 9. In the matrix that the department submitted, they indicated they would like us to include the words where appropriate in Section 43, 1 to 6. Now, Section 43, 1 to 6 is obviously in the Act, but it is not, as far as I can tell, in the bill. So I need some guidance, Chairperson. So do they want us, is it actually a typo? Do they want us to include the words where appropriate in Section 43, 7 to 9 as per the bill? And obviously then we can discuss where specifically with legal, obviously that should be included. Or would they like the words where appropriate to be inserted into Section 43, 1 to 6 as per the Act, which is currently not a clause in the current bill, which would mean it would be a new clause which we would have to draft in order to request the NCOP to put it into the bill. So I just need some guidance, please, Chairperson.
From province.
Yes, please.
Yes. Hardcastle, please assist.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, if I look at all the amendments, this one would not be my first priority for amendments. I think the way appropriate will clarify it better. To say that this is my first priority in terms of amendments. So, Chair, if it stays like it, I think it's an issue of interpretation. And it's not as if the clause is unworkable if the amendment is not made.
Okay, so what you're actually saying is step off this.
Chair, I think there was other more important amendments than this one. Anik, if I'm missing something, please tell me, but yeah.
Chair, yes, just from my side, I agree with Mr. Hardcastle. I think it would definitely add clarity to include it because the first couple of sections, which Honourable Bartman pointed out, is not part of the bill. That's 100% correct. That's subsections 1 to 6, speaks about appeals in general, and it only refers to the minister and the MEC. Whereas the municipal council comes in at a later stage in subsection 8. So from a clarity perspective, I think it would be good to specifically mention the municipal council. But again, as Mr. Hardcastle said, it's not a complete train smash. But again, for clarity and consistency, that's why we made the comment, if that clarifies.
Okay, so can I just ask? So just tell us what you want to be inserted. Is it only the words where appropriate, or is it the full sentence? A municipal council may decide an appeal in terms of section 43, 1 to 6 where appropriate? Is that full sentence that you would?
Chair, Anik again, I think the proposal was not to add the specific wording there, but to look at the sections and add in the reference to municipal council where it is appropriate.
Sorry, ma'am,
so
but we need to be able to come up with a wording that we prefer. We cannot just comment. We need to be specific and say, this is the wording that we would like to see.
Okay, Chair Paul Hardcastle, then give us a day or so that we can just look at the specific instances rather than trying to figure out now subsection by subsection. Then we'll come up in an exact wording of where we want it to be.
Okay, but that is the way we worked last time, some 2 weeks ago. Good. Okay, so we park that. You will come back hopefully with the exact wording and the exact place where you would like that to be inserted. Good. Can we go on to clause 35? Good. Now, clause 35 seeks then to amend section 49 of NIMA. And yes, have you got something before clause 35?
Yes, Chair, I wanted to find out, are we skipping the proposal to delete the word directive in clause 34 under section 43.7?
In section 43.
Yes, the department on page 49 of the matrix under clause 34, which aims to amend section 43.7 of the Act, proposed that in that section that we delete the word directive, and then they indicated their reasoning why. So are we going to consider deleting the word directive, or is it something that the department has changed their mind on?
Can I just, Mr. Hardcastle?
No, Chair, we didn't change our mind on this. The proposal is still to delete that. Gentleman's response is noted, which is a strange comment to make, unless I'm missing something. But the proposal is still that those words be deleted in that specific clause.
Chair, Anik Rousseau, perhaps just to clarify, our comment actually supports the proposed amendment in the bill, and then we just set out why we support it. So the bill proposes the deletion of directive, and then we support that, and we just say why we support the proposed amendment. So we're happy with what they're proposing in that regard.
Sorry, Chair, yes, I see the wording now. Yes, I agree. So the clause stays as it is in the national legislation. We just simply support it because there was some parties that did not agree with that the deletion. And and we wanted to support the deletion support the amendment. So that it doesn't stand as if we have no opinion on it being deleted or not. So yes, it stands as it is.
Honourable Bartman, are you happy that we can then move on?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, just a general comment. I'm not trying to be pedantic for being pedantic's sake. I'm trying, I wasn't in the previous meeting, but I'm obviously trying to understand and possibly support as many of the department's proposals as possible. And when we look at the NCOP processes, it is crucial for us to make sure that the correct wording that we want as a province is reflected in our submission. So I completely understand if some amendments are more important than others, but when it comes to the proposal of amendments, we as committee members need to ensure that we put the best possible wording forward as legislatures. And that is what I'm trying to make sure as a member as well of this committee, Chairperson. Thank you.
Good, accepted. Thank you. Can I just say when we get to clause 35, the Department of Environmental Affairs said that you would like the word instruction in 31I to and then paragraph 5A, 5B, and section 31P. Now, perhaps you could just quickly help us there. And you seek the possible suspension or withdrawal. That is the notes that I've made there. Perhaps, Mr. Hardcastle, you could just quickly help us directing us to the correct place and just tell us whether you refer to the Act or to the bill.
Chair, it's a straight when it refers to the word request being substituted by the word instruction. I think that's clear in terms of those sections that it be substituted. And I just note also the National Department's comment. Agreed. It is submitted that that on the same basis the word request in sections 31(2), 5A, 5B, and section 31P must likewise be substituted with the word instruction. As far as that is, it's a straightforward. It's wherever the word request is, then it should be substituted with the word instruction.
Good.
So
we're happy to support you in that regard. So we're happy to support you in that regard, in not only the current clause 35, but also in other sections of the Principal Act. Good. Thank you. Then can we move on to clause 36? Seems to me there were very little comment on that, or no comment on that. Then 37. Same with 38. And please tell me if I've missed something. 39. And then we come to 40. No comment there. And then 41. Good. By the substitution for the definition of control of the following definition, and then control in relation to, we scrap the word alien or, in relation to invasive species, means the systematic destruction of all specimens of invasive species from within a specified area. And then there were the words or the whole of the Republic. And I think the comment was it's actually unnecessary to say within a specified area or the whole of the Republic. It could just say within a specified area or the Republic. Is that how I understand your comments? Do I understand correctly?
Yes, Chair. I also just read the National Department's response to that. Chair, unless, quickly read it, unless the legal advisors and Anik, you have any concerns about National's reply, I accept the National explanation in terms of why they don't necessarily support our amendment. I will accept National's comment on it, and we can move on unless somebody else has picked up something that I'm missing.
Good, thank you. And then also, I see you referred to visible specimens. I couldn't find that in clause 41. I think you made a remark to say that it only refers to visible specimens. No comment on that?
Chair, I'll have to look at our comment very carefully again. I have no immediate response to that. I'll have to check.
Good, thank you. And then,
sorry, Chair, sorry, Chair, I just want to say again, I apologize, this legislation is quite complex, and whenever you ask a question, I don't necessarily always immediately, and I have to go and study and understand also and follow a thought process. So I do apologize that I don't immediately respond to all of the questions.
no, we understand that. Now, on page 25 of the bill, I twice wrote that your comments as a department was that some sections are too vague and unclear, and that you're asking for a redrafting of some of these. But again, I didn't see you coming up with a draft that you would like the current one to be replaced with. Which makes it difficult for us to consider. We're not drafters of legislation.
Chair, and this is where I absolutely respect your concern that we must come up with a specific wording. Sometimes the reality is that we did not have a specific wording, and it should be the subject of a discussion with the drafters to make sure that we don't have unintended consequences. So I don't have an immediate solution and a clause drafted to clarify this challenge. If that means that you want to move on and not address it, obviously that's your prerogative, but sometimes it is very difficult to come up with a specific wording because you need to sit down with the drafters to say, what was the problem statement that you're trying to address? What is the unintended consequences? And then it's actually a discussion and different opinions be put on a table, and we draft a clause, and it's not necessarily for us to be able to sit around a table as a province and come up with a recommendation. So yeah.
Okay. So now that you've seen the National Department's response, you say perhaps we can move on for now. You will just go back and give it further thought.
Yes, Chair, I'll rather do that now.
Good, thank you. So that deals with section 41, clause 41, clause 42, 43, 44. Honourable Bartman.
Chairperson, I would like to request that when Mr. Hardcastle goes back to consider clause 41, I see also in clause 41, they've obviously requested that the wording within a specified area of or the whole of the Republic be amended to simply specified area within the Republic. And my assumption is to make it a little bit less a bit more grammatically correct, or just allow the sentence to flow a bit more. But is it possible for them to go back and consider just to take the words the whole of out, because then it will allow for both the specified area as well as within the Republic? But it is just a suggestion for the sentence to flow better. Perhaps when they consider, they might think, okay, no, that's not appropriate because it will change the meaning or the content. Thank you, Chair.
Good. I see that in the comments by the National Department, they say the removal can relate to one area or the whole country, depending on the species and who is responsible for the control. For example, an organ of state may be responsible for the removal of a species in the whole country. So it seems to me who eventually does the responsibility of that organ include the whole of the country. And that is why they believe, they want to remain with the words the whole of the country. Okay, but that's in 41. 42 remains as it is. 43, 44, 45. Then on clause 46, again, the comment by the department has been that it is too vague and unclear. Perhaps you can just help us there, Mr. Hardcastle. And again, if you say too vague to your liking? How would you like it to be stated more clearly?
Sorry, Chair, I was now on the matrix and I don't find clause 46 in the matrix. Let me just go to our original comment. Page 52.
52, yes, under clause 41, definition of control, point 6.
I'm just concerned that the page numbers may have changed with the subsequent changes or comments.
So you with clause, which clause now, Chair? Clause 46.
46? 46
because,
of the bill? That deals with the National Environment Management Biodiversity Act.
Chair, Anique Rousseau, if I may come in here. I think what is, so it's actually part of our concern, the concern we raised regarding the vagueness of the definition of control, because the word control is then used in clauses 46 and 47. So I think it's just subsequent, because we've noted a vagueness with the actual definition, when it is then used in these clauses, it also is vague for the same reason, if that makes sense.
So what this bill proposes is that subsection 2 of paragraph A in section 73 be deleted. That means that the following will be removed from the Biodiversity Act, and that is the part which says the person who is the owner of land on which a listed invasive species occurs must, and now delete, notify any relevant competent authority in writing of the listed invasive species occurring on that land. Good. And then to substitute B, who is the owner of the land on which invasive species occurs must, and then B will say take steps to control or eradicate. The word and is replaced with or eradicate the listed invasive species, and then the words and to prevent it from spreading will be deleted as prescribed by the minister. Now somewhere it seems to me as if I'm not sure if which of those paragraphs under the clause 46 are seen as being too vague and unclear.
Chair, again, I think it refers to the use of the word control in that section, because it says take steps to control. So we've raised the concern regarding the vagueness of the definition of control. So that kind of flows from that argument. Good,
but you don't think that it will be covered by the section which says as control as prescribed by the minister? That gives the minister the opportunity to be more clear.
Chair, I think, in other words, when we fix the vagueness of the definition of control, it will automatically address the vagueness related to the use of the word control in clauses 46 and 47. So it all relates to clause 41 and how control is defined.
Yes, yes, and I take your point that control currently is not, well, it does say in the definition, control in relation to an alien or invasive species means to combat or eradicate an alien or invasive species. I'm now quoting from the National Environmental Biodiversity Act, or where such eradication is not possible to prevent as far as may be practicable the recurrence, re-establishment, regrowth, multiplication, propagation, regeneration, or spreading of an alien or invasive species. Now, I fail to see how we can come up with a clearer definition of control. Have you got ideas in that regard?
Chair, exactly for the reason that I said earlier, we are concerned about the vagueness, but it's not something that we want to sit on our own and recommend a specific definition, because there may be unintended consequences, and this is where I say that we did not make a specific recommendation because it isn't that easy, and it's sitting down with the drafters on it. So no, we do not, apart from the whole of the country or the whole of the Republic, that recommendation that we made, that is made. Redrafting the definition is not something that we have specifically catered for in our comments, because it's not that easy. I know that doesn't land you now anywhere, Chair, but that is actually the nature of this law reform, that if you make a very quick amendment sometimes, or propose a very quick amendment, there's unintended consequences that you do not consider. So I do not have at this moment a more clear recommendation. We can certainly go and sit and see if there is specific changes in specific wordings, but other than that, Chair, I don't have an immediate response for you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Ask honourable members to also just note the comments by the Friends of the Stellenbosch Mountain, as well as the department's response thereto. I think the Friends of the Stellenbosch Mountain make very valid remarks. I don't think that it necessarily requires of us to change the wording there, as the department believe that in some cases invasive species may not have to be eradicated. That there may be instances where if we can just control the invasive species, that would be sufficient in terms of what we want to achieve with the Biodiversity Act. Good. And then subsection 2, then to be replaced by 2A, may prescribe circumstances under which a competent authority must be notified in writing. The previous one was a little bit wider, so I propose that we support the bill in that regard. Good. Then that brings us to clause 47, and I'm going to continue unless somebody responds. 48 seems to be good. 9. There was a proposal that the very last word of 49 should be that he or she must consult the cabinet and not consult the minister. In the case of an MEC for environmental affairs, he or she must consult the cabinet. My impression was that he or she must consult the minister. Mr. Hardcastle, that was also some comment, I believe, from Province.
Sorry, Chair, I lost you for a moment there. I apologize. Can you just phrase the question again? Sorry, yes. Chair, my connection seems to be coming and going.
Yeah, I've noticed sometimes that you are breaking up. Clause 49, there was a proposal from Province that the very last word in clause 49, which says he or she must consult the minister, that be replaced by the word cabinet. My inkling is that we must remain with the word minister. Why did you want to change that to cabinet?
Chair, I'm just quickly looking at the comments by national government also on clause 49, and they say that the comments are supported, and I just need to go through their proposed amendment, because then they also proposed an amendment. And it's quite a lengthy amendment. So what I will do is I will go through that proposed amendment and see if it addresses the problem. But in essence, national government supported the comment and also recommended an amendment. So, Chair, I will just double check that amendment and see that it addresses our concern fully.
Good. So,
Chair, I'm now referring to the matrix that was submitted, and the comment made by National on clause 49. Am I on the same page as you now?
I think so. It's as you've said. It seems to me they say they support the comment. Proposed amendment A, retain the original text of subsection 2. So make sure that we are all on the same. As reflected below, that will apply to the minister, and insert new text as subsection 2A, as reflected below, that will apply to the MEC. And the reason for the proposal, the comment is valid, and to create different circumstances that will apply differently to the minister and the MEC within the same subsection may become confusing and difficult to interpret.
So then, Chair, they go on and they have two different subsections, one for the minister and one for the MEC. So it seems to be addressing the concern that we had. I will just double check, but I think then, in essence, we can support the amendment proposed by National. The new proposal in their comments to us now.
Sorry, I want to search now for that section, and the letters 999 come up far too often. Sorry, let me just see. So it's, let me just find that section, because they're now referring to a new section, it seems. Next. Okay, consultation, this is the section 99, because they now refer in their comments to subsection 2. That I presume then is of 99, which deals with consultation. The minister must, in terms of subsection 1, consult all cabinet members whose area of responsibility may be affected by the exercise of the power, and the minister must, in accordance with the principles of cooperative government set out in Chapter 3 of the Constitution, consult the MEC for environmental affairs of each province that may be affected by the exercise of the power. And their proposal was the minister or MEC for environmental affairs, as the case may be, must in terms of subsection 1, and they want to include under B, in accordance with the principles of cooperative government set out Chapter 3, consult the MEC for environmental affairs of each province that may be affected by the exercise of the power, and then insert the words, or in the case of an MEC of environmental affairs, he or she must consult the cabinet. So that then you are referring to the provincial cabinet? Am I correct?
Chair,
The MEC must consult then his colleagues in the provincial cabinet that may be affected by the exercise of the power.
Yeah, well, you instead of members of the Executive Council, you mean that it should be
Of the Executive Council, that would be the
Provincial
better
Cabinet.
words. What words, please, our legal advisors must help us. If we want to refer to the Provincial Cabinet, what would be the best words to use? Our legal advisors still on?
Chair, yes, I'm here. I'm reading the proposal by the National Department. And the proposal by the National Department appears to me correct in terms of addressing the concern by the Provincial Department, and the expression used there is members of the Executive Council, which is correct.
He or she must come, I just want to get it clear. So the very last words of clause 49 will then read, he or she must consult the members of the Executive Council.
Yes, Chair. Chair, I observed that the draft is there in a technical form.
I see that there, so we can just get it from the you say we can support what then the comments from National is then in that regard. Yes, Honourable Hartman, please.
Chairperson, thank you, Chairperson. I support the intention of the new proposal of the National Department, which incorporates the comments that obviously that the province has made. I'm just concerned that if someone is not familiar with the drafting of the legislation, that the exclusion of the word provincial could have people interpret as if Executive Council could mean something different. And I would prefer the word provincial to be included appropriately somewhere in that clause so that we can prevent any confusion when it comes to national compared to province. And in the Western Cape, we also have a provincial constitution and different wording, for example, and I'm just a bit uncomfortable for the exclusion of that word for provincial.
Okay, so 2A will then read the MEC must, in terms of subsection 1, consult all members of the Provincial Executive Council.
Thank
you, Honourable Maseko.
Yeah, just for the record, if you don't see me, I am with member Deirdre, the office. Good. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Okay, hopefully you can communicate by showing each other thumbs up, etc., which we can't. Okay, so that with that change, it seems to me. Thank you,
she is the spokesperson.
Thank you. So it seems to me then, honourable members, as if the National Department welcomes this proposed change and that they actually went even a little bit further. And what we will now do is just to insert the word Provincial Executive Council and organs of state whose areas of responsibility may be affected. And so that's an amendment that we want to include in our negotiating mandate. Thank you. That brings us to clause 50. My impression is that we support that. Then 51. In 51, our provincial colleagues said they do not like the idea that the word must is replaced by may by notice in the Gazette established the National Air Quality Advisory Committee. And you've now been able to see that the National Department says that the amendment provides for flexibility. It is intended that the Minister will appoint a committee to advise when there's a need to do so. Air quality management includes a number of specialist areas, which include emission sources, etc. And these aspects require different skill sets. When a committee is appointed, it should have specific objectives so that relevant expertise can be sourced. A standing committee will be too generic and might not be able to advise the Minister on all aspects. The proposed amendments, however, still empower the Minister to appoint the committee when there is a need. So again, do we go for flexibility, or do you say no, you don't want that kind of flexibility, we must go with must? It seems then also to me as if the Minister would like to be able to appoint a committee and then dissolve a committee and then appoint another committee with a different skill set.
Chair, to be honest, there's different ways to skin a cat. I think here it is rather the situation that I'll be honest with you. I think that we need a strong civil society for environmental governance. And appointment of advisory councils is one of those ways in which we can have civil society providing input into environmental governance. Now, that may mean that the Minister can decide never to do it. The must actually then is a much stronger. You need to appoint it. And it doesn't mean that the makeup of that committee, you can have a minimum requirement, and then you can co-opt members as and when there's a need to have different skill sets on the committee. So we just wanted to have more certainty that that committee will be appointed, because the May leaves it absolutely to the discretion of the Minister. And leaves it up to so there's no guarantee that that committee will be appointed, and so that was our motivation. I hear, and the flexibility to a certain extent, I agree and I understand that. So I'm not going to, it's rather something that the standing committee can debate and argue if they want to see that flexibility, or if they believe that there is more value in making sure that such a committee is being appointed.
Good. Honourable members, I propose that we support the Provincial Department of Environmental Affairs and that we say the Minister must, by notice in the Gazette, establish the National Air Quality Advisory Committee. Will you agree?
Chairperson
Yes,
Deirdre
we
Bartman,
agree.
support.
Support? Good. So thank you. The Minister must, by notice in the Gazette, and it is so noted. Good. The next section that and remember, we're now with another piece of legislation, the Air Quality Act. They want to substitute the current section 22A with a new section 22A, which then speaks to, for example, the licenses, atmospheric emission licenses, and the comments that we've received is the following. The first, the Centre for Environmental Research says there must be consequences for people that transgress. Our provincial department argued for norms and standards to be developed in the issuing of such a license. And then the City of Cape Town actually said that this 10 million rand referred to there in the new proposed section 22AB is too high, and that as currently under 3A, it says that on application contemplated, the licensing authority must direct the applicant to immediately cease the activity Here they are asking for some leeway, some freedom, because they believe that, you know, sometimes enterprises should be allowed to operate while there is still an investigation ongoing regarding the potential atmospheric pollution that comes from there. And they say the word that now the licensing authority must direct the applicant to immediately cease the activity pending a decision on the application is too harsh. And if I could just share with you my idea, I think they've got a point. Sometimes the activity may eventually prove not to be as detrimental as may initially have been indicated, or what a complaint may refer to. Your comments, anybody, I must say, it doesn't need to be the honourable members first. I think we would like to learn from the department and the other officials.
Chair, I will respond to the comment we made about norms and standards.
Yeah, let's take that one then first.
But just, yeah, because that's the one that I've got in front of me in the terms of the matrix. Chair, no, it's a little bit of a long background now, and it's not something that national government have actually seen the need for, simply because they haven't dealt with trying to develop norms and standards in this way. But when we try to develop norms and standards that is provided for in NEMA itself, through a legal opinion, we got the legal opinion that stated that norms and standards developed in terms of NEMA section 2410 does not, you cannot cannot develop such norms and standards also for air quality activities. Because the Air Quality Act doesn't allow for such standards to be developed. So to remedy that problem, we proposed a new section 12A to develop norms and standards so that you can develop a norm and a standards in terms of NEMA, and it applies both to NEMA activities and air quality activities. Now, frankly, that National have not seen a need simply because they have not landed yet in such a situation where they try to develop standards for both NEMA activities and air quality activities in one. So hence their comments. Which actually that means that they don't fully understand the challenges that we have. But Chair, so I stand by that proposed amendments. I'm not sure that National necessarily understands the need for them. That is in terms of the norms and standards and our proposal that we made for a new section 12 big A.
Okay, let's stick with the norms and standards for the time being. So what you propose is that a new paragraph be inserted saying norms, to read as follows: norms and standards for equality activities, section 12A, norms and standards for, and then the Minister may by notice in the Gazette set national norms and standards for activities listed in terms of section 2. So I must say the comment from the department, I don't quite follow them, and it just makes sense to what the Western Cape is proposing here. They just say that the Air Quality Act empowers the Minister to declare certain activities as controlled emitters. But I think what I hear from you, Mr. Hardcastle, is that you say it will just make it easier for you to have such norms and standards, and I propose then, honourable members, that we support the province in that regard.
Chair Deirdre Bartman.
Honorable Bartman, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I would like to support the proposal by the province. Just because a particular scenario has not occurred on a national level does not mean that it will not occur on a national level. And given that the province has already experienced complications regarding these norms and standards, it is important for us to request that they are included. Thank you.
Good. So agreed to. Thank you, Mr. Hardcastle there. And that then speaks to section 21, which is not in the current bill. So it's a new, I almost want to say, new clause that we would like to see included. I understand that correctly. Good. Which then brings us then, sorry, back to clause 52, where first it's City of Cape Town says that the 10 million is too high. Now it seems to me, if I read it correctly, it says an administrative fund. It's the relevant licensing authority must find the applicant an administrative fine which may not exceed 10 million before the application for an atmospheric emission license may be considered. But it seems then to me you can also decide that it must not be 10 million, it must be 10 rand. If you that is up to the licensing authority to decide. The interpretation.
Chair, if it is about a fine for illegal commencement, then that fine is determined by a fine committee, and it is a sliding scale. And it's based on the significance of the implications. So it's evidence-based. So it's not an ad hoc consideration. It is rather consideration based on the facts and trying to and is linked to the impact of an anticipated activity. Chair, in terms of the 10 million, well, it is consistent with what is in the NEMA for listed activities. So they obviously try to bring it in line with listed activities, the same range of fines. What is a challenge in terms of air quality activities is that air quality activities, when you trigger an air quality activity, you also trigger a NEMA activity. And one of the comments that we later on make, and I'm not sure if, is that therefore you have to do both section 24G as well as similar process in terms of the Air Quality Act. So you may be slammed twice with a fine that can go up to quite a few millions for that matter. But that's a different issue that we will come on later. Chair, I don't have any comments on the 10 million at this moment in time because they try to align it with the NEMA activities. In terms of you must versus may, I can see that there may be merits depending on how significant the contravention is.
So what we propose is actually there under the proposed paragraph 22A3, just above the A. So it will be in line 42 of our document, that the must be replaced with the word may. But you see, I think that it's only for the it must immediately cease the activity. I think the public participation, investigate, evaluate, and assess the impact. I think that must remain a must. Am I correct?
Yes, Chair, you must always assess it and always determine, but if you should always immediately cease all activities, that I suppose can be seen as stringent, because maybe ceasing activities may sometimes even result in further harm. Yeah, it's I have not applied my mind fully to that, but I can live with a may, depending on the facts of each case.
Yes.
But yeah.
Good. So the same flexibility that the department asked for before, just now with the establishment of that air quality committee, I think now we want the licensing authorities to have that same kind of freedom. So our proposal is in paragraph 22A3 that the word must be replaced with may. Good. And then also on clause 52, Province said that in terms of paragraph 4B, the applicant concerned is acquitted or found not guilty after prosecution. And that acquitted actually means you are found not guilty. And that it is, and I wish I could pronounce that English word, tautologious. And the department said, yeah, they will grant us that, it seems. They say, yeah, they will consider that. Correct? So shall we from our side also just support that idea and say is acquitted or found not guilty, that we believe that could be deleted. I take silence as the people support.
Support, Chair, because not guilty, and the other one, which was the other one, is the same.
Yes. Okay. Good. Thank you. That is then the changes to clause 52, which brings us to clause 53, where there's also been some comment. Good. We're still with the Air Quality Act, and then section 36. The bill proposes to amend by the insertion of subparagraph 2A. A provincial organ of state must be regarded as the licensing authority if a listed activity falls within the boundaries of more than one metro municipality or within the boundaries of more than one district municipality. And then it says there, and the relevant municipalities agreed thereto in writing. And it seems to me the proposal is that who must now get the municipalities to agree to that section should be deleted, that the relevant municipalities agree thereto in writing. But if a listed activity crosses borders or the boundaries of more than one district municipality, then automatically it would be the responsibility of province. Province would be the licensing authority. I just think that the one thing that we need to have clarity on is then obviously the municipalities must know that this is seen by province as something which crosses the boundaries of more than one district municipality. And I don't know if currently they are notified or that there's any requirement for province to notify municipalities that province will now be taking the responsibility to issue licenses because province believes that it crosses the boundaries of more than one district municipality. Mr. Hardcastle, perhaps you can just, because obviously we want clarity again.
Yeah, Chair, yes, just to confirm, the same as when application falls crosses two boundaries, two provincial boundaries. Then national becomes the competent authority without written agreement from the provinces. And we say that the same provision without written agreement by municipalities should be applicable if it crosses different municipal boundaries. So it's just that we have consistent wording, and as far as how would the various provinces and in the case of various municipalities, how would they know? I think rather that in practice that pans out fairly well through both cooperative governance as well as applicants being quite aware of the situation of who they must apply to. They will not, especially in terms of air quality activities, because their application fees are quite hefty. They will make or do a kind of a due diligence before they just simply submit an application. But even if they submit an application to a municipality, which should have been submitted to, say, province, through cooperative governance and regular interaction with municipalities, that is normally sorted out. So all I can say, Chair, is that in practice, this seems not to be a big issue. And I'm not sure how you would draft it to make it sure in legislation. It's rather this must, through cooperative governance, make sure that the correct competent authority is identified. But you cannot legislate that to the nth degree to remove all uncertainty.
Good. Honourable members, so the proposal is then, and I support that, under 53A, the last bit of that sentence, and the relevant municipalities agreed thereto in writing, that section is also deleted. I take silence again as approval. Thank you. Thank you. Then the next paragraph that we have is from Province. You commented, and I noted there it was on page 59. Is it 12.1 or 121 on 53B by the substitution in subsection 5 for paragraph D of the following paragraph? The listed activity relates to the activities listed in terms of section 24.2 of the National Environmental Management Act or the National Environmental Management Waste Act, and the Minister has been identified as the competent authority. Mr. Hardcastle, perhaps you can just help us there again, why you say the word, you commented on that specific paragraph. For me, it sounds good. Let me hear from you. Let us hear from you.
So, Chair, you've lost me a little bit now in terms of where you are. I'm just trying to catch up here quickly. I apologize.
Okay, again, clause 53. Clause 53, which refers to section 36. And I just see that you also commented on 36B. Section 36B of the National Air Quality Act is hereby amended.
Anik, if you maybe are with, because I'm trying to find where our comments so that I can meaningfully comment on this now. Apologize, Chair, I seem to have, I'm looking at the matrix now and I can't find that comment so that I can look at it.
Chair, if I may, I also don't see the comment in the matrix, but if you're referring to clause 53 subsection, clause 53B, is that the one you're referring to?
Correct.
Okay, where they substitute, where they delete the or and they replace it with an and.
Yes, I just saw that on page 53, 59, sorry, that there was some comment from.
Yeah, we support that textual change. So what they did is in the past, we also queried that the word or must be replaced with and. So we do support the replacing of or, which they propose to delete, and insert an and. We support that.
Good, thank you. So that is good. Then the next one, I take that we all support that then. The next one is then in paragraph C, where you speak of the Minister and the Licensing Authority contemplated in subsections 1 to 4, or the MEC and the Licensing Authority contemplated in subsections 1 to 5 may agree that an application for an atmospheric emission license with regard to any activity contemplated may be dealt with by the Minister, and then insert MEC or the relevant licensing authority. And it seems to me that we all support that thing. Good. But then can I just say, before we step completely off this, from province's side, you also asked for a fee to be payable for a variation application for an emission license. And my question is just, so do we require something in the bill to allow for that? So you can't ask a fee for a variation of an application without that being included.
Sorry, Chair. Just
yes.
Are you proposing a new clause? Just
the province. Province. Well, my question to province is: it seems to me they wanted a new clause which will allow a fee to be charged for a variation of an application for an emission license. So
okay.
My understanding is you've got a license already, you paid for it, you've gone through the public participation or all the very expensive exercises, but now you say to people, now I don't want to emit just this cocktail of gas or substances into the air. I now want to increase the volume or the composition of this, what I call cocktails, will now change because I have now branched out or I installed new equipment or something like that. And that if you apply for a variation, it's not a new application, it's a variation, it seems, if I understood you correctly, Mr. Hardcastle.
Yes, Chair. I am sorry. I think I found the right provision here, and yes, variation can be a significant administrative process and even significant additional implications. So we wanted to clarify that variation applications should also receive an application fee. If I'm not mistaken, then National's comment was, this proposal is plausible, however, only section 46 should be amended. So I will have to look into their comment that only 46 and see if that makes sense that only section 46 is amended. But in essence, charging a fee for variation applications seem to be supported. Am I now mistaken in terms of what where I read their comment? I think
you're at the right place. It says from National they say the proposal is plausible. However, only section 46 should be amended. So they don't think that this would be the appropriate place for that amendment, and that it requires then a specific new clause for 46. May I again just ask, because we're going to ask you then to come up with a proposal for us to consider for possible inclusion in our negotiating mandate, but that you again give us some well, also use the words may rather than being more specific if possible.
Chairperson,
Chair.
Sorry.
Deirdre, Honourable Bartman, please go first.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I just wanted to make a comment on the proposed amendment. I do believe that it's important for us to put in this processing fee for variations, because there are companies and there are institutions that they apply and apply and apply for their licenses again and again. An example that comes to mind easily is that Eskom has been getting away with murder when it comes to emissions over the years. And if you put this processing in when it comes to variations of licenses, there will be a barrier, at least one extra step to make them think again in terms of the variation. And often it just gets extended and extended and they just apply and apply. And we can't allow companies such as that and institutions such as that to be getting away with murder. Thank you.
Mr. Hardcastle, I hear you clapping hands. Can you respond?
I'm not clapping hands, I'm typing, Chair, but yes, no, it's fine. I agree with the comment in terms of that you don't want a basic application and thereafter various variations being applied for. So yes, but we will just check that where is the most appropriate place and take note of National's comment, and then we will provide the specific wording. In this instance, it is possible to provide wording.
Yes, and it seems to me that National Department may be quite correct if they ask that be included in section 46, so that may be the most appropriate position for that. I just see that I've got some comments here where I've added, and I'm now, let me not jump around. So let's first 53 is then dealt with. Good. And the next one then.
Chair,
yes.
Sorry, Chair Paul Hardcastle, I just want to highlight another matter, and look, so that the Standing Committee is just aware of the concern that we had, and that is related to the competent authority and the comments we made in terms of who should be the licensing authority. And from the beginning, we highlighted the fact that when air quality matters is concerned, then the competent authority in terms of the Constitution should be, or the licensing authority should, as a first call, be the municipalities. And what this section in the Act is trying to do is, in certain instances, make National the competent authority. And what we fought very hard is that at least now for certain national priorities, National doesn't simply usurp that power, but at least that there's now opportunity for an agreement between national and provinces and national and local, and provinces and local, that municipality can, in spite of it being a national priority, still be the competent or the licensing authority. We argued that because of the constitutional mandate, municipalities should actually be the first port and call, and if it is a national priority, there may be an agreement between the municipality and national, or municipality and province, for the province or national to take over that competency. We highlighted this to SALGA also and said, guys, you must fight for that national, for that constitutional mandate. And it was especially important because the fees related to air quality applications is quite substantial, meaning that it is a form of income to a municipality, which they need because their air quality officers, which they must have, is always dealing with the concerns and the complaints about air pollution. And they must still evaluate the applications and give comment to National, yet none of the application fees go to them because of the provisions of the Act making it a national competency, and the minister is the licensing authority, meaning that application fee doesn't come to the municipality, yet they have to deal with all of they're the first port of call for complaints and so on. So we were quite disappointed by SALGA not picking up on this issue adequately, and hopefully SALGA's responses now did pick up on this. But as it is, the amendments at least, and we fought very hard for it, at least allow for where the minister is identified as a licensing authority, that there can be an agreement between the minister and the municipality for the municipality to become a licensing authority. But that's for us a second prize. It's not the first prize. I think we are probably not going to get it right for them to acknowledge the constitutional mandate and rather make the municipality the first port of call in an application. But at least we've got the second prize where they acknowledge that there can be an agreement that certain instances the municipality take over the licensing authority ownership. So a long-winded explanation, Chair, but I wanted the Standing Committee to be aware of of that we were not happy that we don't acknowledge adequately the constitutional mandate of municipalities in terms of air quality matters.
Thank you. Ms. Niekerk notified me just before this meeting that she now forwarded SALGA's response. Unfortunately, we haven't had an opportunity. The fact that many of the important role players didn't respond in time didn't make our life easier. So perhaps, Ms. Niekerk, I don't know if you're in a position to tell me whether SALGA did comment on this aspect, or will we first have to study that document from SALGA that we received just before this meeting started?
Yes, Chairperson, they did briefly refer to air pollution being a municipal competence. And basically, the comment refers to section 36(8) of the NEM Aqua, where they are saying that the Act must be expanded to also allow for agreements between the Minister and MEC or municipalities for matters of national priority. They are saying that air quality licensing is a function that is concurrent across all of the spheres. NEM Aqua is unequivocal in identifying metros and districts as licensing authorities. They go further to say that NEMLA does not dispense with this. They note that national activities refers to listed activities that are controlled under EIA regulations, as well as the new GHG reporting regulations, and in future also under the Climate Change Act, provisioned under the NEM Aqua. They refer to the written submission on the bill, which they've sent through, and they emphasize that decisions on authorizing national scale applications must be made in consultation with the relevant local authority. They further then say that the Constitution Schedule 4 Part A list pollution control as a functional area of concurrent national and provincial legislative competence, and as it is a shared competence between national and provincial governments, it makes sense that an agreement should exist to determine who is responsible for what.
Good, thank you very much for that. And I presume Mr. Hardcastle also hasn't had an opportunity to look at this. So his comments regarding SALGA must probably be taken into that in that context. So Mr. Hardcastle, perhaps if you wouldn't mind, and if we can give you some homework, the aspects that the National Department thought should be considered in section 46. Won't you please go and work on that together with perhaps the comments from SALGA, and then advise us in that regard, or serve us with a proposal in this regard, as I've said, in a format that hopefully we would be able to adopt, amend, or hopefully not reject.
Yes, Chair, I will certainly look at it. What I can, again, and I mentioned this, is that at least we got the second prize, which I think that is all national will be prepared to settle for, and that is that even if it's a national priority, the bill now makes provision that there can be an agreement between the minister and province and or municipalities. And I think that's probably all that we can hope for. But I mean, we rather wanted a stronger fight from SALGA and the municipalities right at the beginning of the compilation of the bill. But I will look at it, and I will give you a comment. But as it stands, we at least support our second prize, which is what is in the act in the bill now, and it at least makes provision that with an agreement, a municipality can become the licensing authority.
Thank you.
Chairperson, Anik Rousseau, just perhaps to clarify that the argument that Mr. Hardcastle just discussed is in the matrix on page 58, but the reference refers to clause 53A. It should actually refer to clause 53C. and section 36 subsection 8, not 36 subsection 2 capital A. So maybe just that might clarify things a bit.
That's why I was lost. Okay, yeah, no, fine, thanks, Anik.
So just to confirm, page 58 of the matrix, the reference is exactly what we've just discussed, this issue, and the reference should be to clause 53C and section 36.8 of NEM Aqua.
Good, thank you. Can I say, and then also the department proposed this amendment to 37 for that fee, but again, it seems to me national, while the department already said alternatively, this could be addressed in an amendment to section 46, and it seems to me that the department again also would like to see us rather amending section 46. Good. Then just before we get to our clause 54, there is also a proposal from province that section 41 be amended of the Air Quality Act, and where you want you say it does provide that a provisional atmospheric emission license is valid for a period of 1 year from the date of the commissioning of the listed activity and may be extended for an additional 1 year on good cause shown. And then you say, however, the Act provides that the holder of a provisional atmospheric emission license is entitled to a license when the facility has been in full compliance with the conditions and requirements for a continuous period of at least 6 months. And then National said this proposal by Western Cape is not supported. The proposal will empower the licensing authority to issue a provisional license that can be renewed endlessly, which is not intended to be allowed. An air emission license cannot be issued to a facility that failed to demonstrate compliance with the minimum emission standards. And while it's understood that it may take some time for a plant to operate as it was intended during the design, the 2-year period is enough to illustrate compliance with the law. Your comments on that, Mr. Hardcastle?
Chair, yes, look, I mean, this was for practical reasons that we made this recommendation. I do understand the comment by National, although it seems to suggest that that competent authorities will act in an irresponsible manner, which you can't legislate for that necessarily. We just wanted it a much more practical reasons because that additional year, it may take longer for to test and to a facility to make sure that it runs properly. So hence we remain with our comments. We think it is a practical amendment that make practical sense. You can maybe add another provision to say, but you cannot amend it for more than one additional term. You can maybe have such an amendment, but that a term be only for an additional year. That for some practical reasons may also sometimes may be impractical.
Okay. Can I ask again, if you now that you've received the comment from National still wants to propose this, will you please serve us with the wording that you believe we should pass on to the National Council of Provinces? Good. Thank you very much, honourable members. Yes.
Chair, I just wanted to find out, is the wording that they're proposing the wording that is on page 64? Because on the province's submissions for the matrix, it goes on to page 64 and then it reads there, the proposal. It is proposed that section 41.3 is amended as follows. A provisional atmospheric emission license is valid for a period of 1 year from the date of the commissioning of the listed activity and may be extended for, and then they take out an additional 1 year and put in a period as determined by the licensing authority. And if that is the case, Chairperson, then I support that, because then those big companies that are trying their luck and those big institutions such as Eskom, who keep on getting away with murder when it comes to emissions, can then, as a province, we can then say, actually, no, you cannot have it for such a long period because you have not shown that you are willing to change your behavior. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you for that. Can I just say, I just have a challenge in that I don't see there where you've quoted them. Let me just quickly look for that wording, because then it seems to me what you're saying is it's unnecessary for us to ask of Mr. Hardcastle to come back to us. We've already got a wording which we can support.
Chair, yes, we provided the wording. I think national concern is that you can ad infinitum extend that extension or give further extensions. And I think the intention is not that you ad infinitum do that. That would be irresponsible. Chair, if there's anything to add to the proposal, we will tell you. Otherwise, the recommendation of the amendment stands as we proposed it.
Can I just ask, Honourable Bartman, won't you just quickly help me again? The page number that you've read from?
No problem, Chairperson. On the original matrix, it's page 64, and on the new matrix where national departments' responses are included, it is page 74, and it reads there, continued.
Sorry. 74 of 122. Are we on the same one?
Of 142.
Yeah, you see what I did was I unfortunately changed the width of some of these columns to try and get it to less pages to print, and now well, page numbers. I think the next time we must have like paragraph numbers on our document or something like that.
Yeah, so Chair, if you go to the original document Annexure B that our procedural officer sent us, it is on page 74, and then the proposal is there for the amendment of section 41.3. And while I note the National Department's concerns that it could be extended indefinitely, that same concern can be said if the words 1 year is included in the legislation, because then the licensing authority can give 1 year every single time when, for example, after 6 months, if we see that someone is not adhering to something, then it will take us another 6 months before we can actually determine whether or not they should get an extension. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. I think we're literally and figuratively speaking on the same page. Can I just ask of Ms. Nicker, do you have the wording? I see it here. A provisional atmospheric emission license is valid for a period of 1 year from the date of commissioning of the listed activity and may be extended for a period as determined by the licensing authority on good cause shown to the licensing authority.
I've got that, Chairperson, on page 64, yeah.
Good, and you will include that in our minutes. Thank you.
I shall do so.
Good. Thank you. Now, section 54, I think, didn't elicit any comments. Then obviously also 55, then 56. Again, province, you said clarity regarding existing rights. My issue, perhaps we must just point out that now we're away from air, we are now along the coast, the Integrated Coastal Management Act. And you seem to say that there are people with existing rights, probably through years of use or years of certain structures being constructed, and that there is not enough clarity on let me call it that old infrastructure or old things that have been that are impacting on the coastal zone.
Chair, yes, this was one of the comments that didn't come from this department, but from somewhere else in the province, and it was an issue about the retrospectivity of the Act and how that will influence existing rights. I note the comment by national government, and I don't have anything to add to that. I kind of agree, and that is that if something the fact that something is erected illegally in the past, that does away with any argument about rights accrued. You cannot something that was illegally erected argue about rights. That's another thing. But I think the implications of the various sections anyway, I think you can read and interpret them as having retrospective application. So, Chair, I simply note the comment by national government. I would not, I don't think any other clarity is needed. I don't know if there's any other comments. I haven't really studied this in detail. Any other, Anik, any comment? Michelle, any comment on this?
Paul, just to confirm, I also agree with National's explanation. I think we can move on from this one now. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And then same with 57, 58, which is quite a long section, is good. 59 is good. You must please stop me. 60, 61 is good. The next one that I want us to look at is then 62, where now it seems to me there's this bureau, and there was a proposal that in the administration of this bureau, that it will also have to fall under the PFMA. Now, I see in some instances it does refer, like 34G, it says the board takes all decisions in the performance of the duties and exercise of powers of the Bureau, except where the Public Finance Management Act provides otherwise. So it does refer to the Public Finance Management Act that may apply to this Bureau. I just have a concern that sometimes the Public Finance Management Act requires a substantial investment in staff and structures. For example, in terms of supply chain, the purchase of goods and services, you need more than one body to sit on this, etc., etc. And I'm not convinced that this bureau must be that big in terms of staff numbers in order to be able to adhere to all the requirements of the Public Finance Management Act. Your thoughts, please?
Sure, Chair. In terms of the Waste Bureau, Chair, I personally have huge questions about the purpose and the need for a Waste Bureau, but I mean, that's me personally, that it is going to take a lot of resources to establish. Without that, that's going to be the case, Chair. If we have that resources in the current economic climate, that's also debatable. But then you must also look at, it is not intended that the Waste Bureau will be fully state funded. It must also generate its own funding. So we must look at the proposal as a whole of how the Bureau is going to be functioning. I think what would probably be better is that if there is a presentation about what the Bureau is supposed to be doing and how it should be functioning. I don't think we can go through all of that level of detail now, Chair, unfortunately, but I am concerned that the amount of resources it's going to take can be quite taxing within the current economic climate. Chair, just in terms of the proposal that we made, first of all, this one didn't come from, I think it came from Treasury. I see that a national comment is that they note that it can be made clearer, and they even proposed a clause, the wording. So we can simply accept that wording.
Can I just ask, and I would like our legal advisors to assist us, if it seems then, as I've said, the National is quite supportive of including the words, the Bureau is a public entity for the purposes of the Public Finance Management Act and must comply with the provisions of that Act. Where would one include that? Because I see there are clauses in terms of general powers, the governing board, etc. And perhaps you can just help me by determining the most appropriate clauses in the original piece of legislation to include this kind of wording. Anybody? Are our legal advisors still online? Ms. Niekerk?
I see Advocate Leroux, chairperson. I see him in the meeting.
Chair, if it's not an immediate response, and we can see where we can adequately fit that in that provision, if there is not an immediate response, and obviously the legal advisors are also welcome to maybe at a later date come back to us or next time, so they can actually advise us afterwards.
It just seems to me as if 34A, which says the establishment of a waste management bureau, and then it says, you know, it will be a juristic person, and there it does say the bureau must comply with the provisions of a Public Finance Management Act, unless I missed this, that it may have been removed in a subsequent amendment. But 34A2 of the main Act does actually say the Bureau must comply with the provisions of the Public Finance Management Act. So I don't know if it's really necessary for us to include that. Honorable Bartman, I heard you.
No, thank you, Chairperson. You covered what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for that. And then we can move on to, in terms of the bill.
Chair, sorry, I apologize, Chair. I just want to give a reflection. The bill and the Act make quite extensive provision for the Bureau, and which highlights the importance of how important they regard the Bureau. Now, this is for waste management. And our comment in terms of the Air Quality Advisory Committee, and that the Minister may establish it. Now, I want us to compare the amount of attention they gave to the establishment of a waste bureau, and compare that to the huge flexibility they are proposing in terms of that they may appoint an Air Quality Advisory Committee. It's just that it seems that we must also understand that air quality is going to be an issue of the future, and we must be as strong in our approach to air quality as we are in waste management. But that's just a reflection back to when we had to debate about the mayor or the must, or in terms of appointment of that committee. It just serves to motivate that the must is not inappropriate.
Good. Thank you very much. Taken. Then if we can move on to page 33, line 24, appointments to the board must be made in a way that the board is composed of persons covering a broad range of appropriate expertise in the field of waste management and have gender representation and other categories. I don't think that is well worded in any case. And the question was, why would gender representation be highlighted. So do we have a proposal here in terms of how that could be improved?
Chair, no, we didn't. We wanted actually clarity what is meant by other categories, and I think that National's response was other categories is intended to cater for any other representation that might not necessarily relate to gender, but limiting it to gender alone may not be appropriate either. So I suppose it's very it's not nicely worded, but I don't immediately have a specific response of how to make it more eloquently worded. If you guys have any other comment to make.
A better wording, maybe something can be broadly representative of the South African population or something like that. Honourable members, would you go with something like that?
Chairperson, I'm happy with the proposals.
Good. Thank you very much then. And then there have been some comment regarding the chairperson, and it says it is a valid point and wording will be reconsidered. I can just say I have found in other instances that sometimes, there's a long time delay in the appointment of a chairperson, etc., and that we need wording that, to the extent that the board would be able to elect their own chairperson, if the minister fails to do so, or acting chair, or somebody to act as chair. So the minister may appoint a member, and I'm reading from line 32 of the bill on page 33. The minister may appoint a member of the board as acting chairperson of the board if the chairperson is absent for a substantial period, or the appointment of a chairperson is pending. But the problem is that the minister sometimes also doesn't, appoint an acting chair, and then you're snookered. So what we want is also that if the minister has not appointed an acting chairperson of the board, then the board is entitled to elect an acting chair until such time that the minister has made such an appointment. And I would strongly support this idea. And it seems to me from National, it says it's a valid point and wording will be reconsidered. So my proposal is that we include wording to that effect. Agreed? Thank you. Thank you, honourable members. We've got 45 minutes left, and we actually still need to go back to the original clauses that we dealt with last time. Hopefully that will not take us too long. I have now moved on to page 37 of the bill. And there, I think the request was that we add section 36(1) the words Provincial Gazette, so that currently it's not only in the National Gazette but also in the Provincial Gazette, section 36. And we're still here with clause 63. Section 36(1) of the Main Act. Sorry, let me just go to that. Sorry, sometimes One's computer is not as quick as you would like it to be.
Chair?
Yes,
find out,
Maseko?
Where are you, Chair?
I'm in Stellenbosch. No, honourable member.
Yeah, on the agenda.
If I go back to the original act as it currently stands,
Yeah.
clause 30, no, section 36. Let me not.
Section 36.
Section 36,
Okay.
1. It says the minister or the MEC in respect of an area which affects a relevant province may, after consultation with the Minister of Water Affairs and Forestry, and I think it would actually be better to say the minister is responsible for water affairs and forestry, because those names change, and any other organ of state concerned by notice in the Gazette, but then it should also include or Provincial Gazette, identify and as investigation areas, because the MEC doesn't place adverts or notices in the Gazette. We use the Provincial Gazette.
Yeah.
Chairperson Deirdre Bartman.
Yes, please, Honourable.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I found the section 36 you're talking about in the Original Waste Act. I would just like to identify, is this a new proposal by yourself? Because I can't find it in my original matrix or the updated one. Thank you.
I'm not sure if I should take the credit for that, but I just see that in terms of the notes that I've made, I've actually included that as an amendment, proposed amendment, when I worked through the act. But it could be that some public entity made me aware of this need to include Provincial Gazette there as well.
Chairperson Deirdre Bartman.
Yes, please.
Chair, given that I'm unable to find it in the original or updated matrix, would it be possible for us to take your proposal and ask legal as well as the department to go through it as well as the particular wording and come back to us on it, as I'm just concerned that we're not going to necessarily get the wording correct immediately today.
So noted. Thank you, Ms. Niekerk. Good. That is in the end of clause 63. We're now going on to clause 64. And there, the amendment that is proposed is that it reads as follows: an owner of the land that is likely to be contaminated. So the word significantly is taken out. Or a person who undertakes an activity that caused the land to be significantly contaminated must notify the minister or MEC of that contamination as soon as that person becomes aware of that contamination. Okay. Now, the question is just from the Centre for Environmental Research, why do we say an owner of the land that is likely to be contaminated? When the owner might be overseas and not aware what's happening on his or her land. And I was just wondering whether we shouldn't say, it could even be the person in possession of the land. My impression is that ownership and possession is not always the same thing. Or it could also be a person that is responsible for that piece of land. So I don't know if we've got comment from National on that one. Let me just quickly look for that section 36. Any comment from Mr. Hardcastle or Mr. Rousseau?
Chair, without thinking about and without understanding or knowing what National's response to that, it probably makes sense that you don't only refer to landowner, but also a landowner or person in control of the land would probably address their concern more. And it sounds reasonable because yes, sometimes finding owner of land becomes an impossibility virtually, but then you deal rather with a person in control of the land. Maybe that's wording. I don't know what National's response was to that one.
Quite frankly, I don't see my document, Ms. Nikak, that I have got open here in front of me jumps from clause 62 then to clause 71.
Okay. Well, we're dealing now with the Center for Environmental Rights comment, correct, Chairperson?
Oh, okay, yes. And that's why.
Just go to CER.
Yes, so that's why it's not here. Let me just, where will I find CER's comments?
The National Department did respond. It would be their comments on the Waste Act.
Can you help us just find that? Give us some wording that I can search in my computer.
Well, the comment from CER was in relation to proposed amendments to contaminated land provisions. I have it on page 82.
Close to that now.
CER starts, Chairperson, at the end of the comments of our department. Clause 64.
Still Annexure B?
Yes.
Would you just give me a little string or a few words that I can search?
Maybe if you just put in a search for contaminated land provisions.
Contaminated
land provisions.
Excellent. Thank you.
I say.
The department agrees that the emphasis on who needs to report on likely contaminated must be the same for either user of land or owner of land, and agrees with the text proposed. Okay, this was the intention of this section. And so we, now the wording proposed, do we have the wording proposed there? So we'll have to go back to the original CER submission. So Ms. Nikar, can we leave that with you then, to include that in our minutes?
I'll do so, Chairperson.
Agreed. Thank you.
Chairperson, the other document.
Please go ahead.
Chair, I'm not sure if I'm on the same page as everyone metaphorically. So I just want to understand. So the submission by the CER, does the provincial department support it? Because when I submitted questions on the clauses and sections that the department did not comment on, they indicated that they support the current ones that they did not comment on, which obviously includes the clause 64 of the bill. So if the CER is attempting to amend it, I just would like to know specifically, do the provincial department support it? And if not, or if they would like to go and look at it, if we can perhaps then leave it for specific wording from legal and the provincial department.
Chair, maybe Paul Hardcastle, maybe in this specific, expanding it not to only refer to landowner, but also, I think, what did I say, the wording of the user of the land. We will support that, Chair. I think it's a good suggestion, and yeah, we will support it.
Thank you, Chair.
And as it currently reads, it says the owner of a land only needs to report when it's likely to be contaminated, but a person that undertakes an activity must report activity that caused the land to be significantly contaminated, must notify. So the what do you call it? Not the emphasis, but the onus on the owner is then less than the person that caused the contamination. Okay, and we want to level that Okay, so that deals with section 64. Then section 65. Again, I think what we must just make sure with is that in terms of the Environmental Management Waste Act, the Principal Act still refers to the Minister of Water Affairs and Forestry, and I think we must just again say the minister responsible for water affairs. So that is an amendment that is proposed. Good. And then the CR also called under clause 65 for a time limit in terms of, it says there, it requires a site assessment to be conducted in respect of the relevant investigation area and submit a site assessment report and a remediation plan, if applicable, to the minister or the MEC, as the case may be. Now, what they ask for later in that it says, if applicable to the minister or MEC within a period specified in the notice. But they call that even under section 37A, that there must be a time limit for the submission of such a remediation plan. Any comments on that?
Chair, not an immediate comment. A time limit seems to be a reasonable proposal. I just have to carefully look at what their proposal is and also National's response to have any more further idea. Is this now? Is this section? Is clause? This is now clause 65.
That is clause 65. I can just read to you what the National has said. It says it's impossible in some instances to have a time frame for submission of a site assessment report. This is because the samples need to be taken in summer and winter because of the water table, for instance, changes between seasons. If the department had to accede to the request made by CER, then the department would not be in a position to understand the full extent of the contamination and the remediation measures that would not be able to fully address the contamination. So, but my impression is one can perhaps have a wording which will give you a flexible period, such as in B2, where it says within a period specified in the notice. And we will probably just have to go back to the original clause to say, you know, who can determine that period that somebody must submit the site assessment report and the remediation plan.
Yeah, Chair, I'll have to really apply my mind to this. I think the request for time period sounds reasonable. I do understand National's comment. What you can sometimes do is say somebody must submit a report within a certain period, but on good cause can request that that period be extended. Then that at least puts a first stop in terms of ad infinitum when you have to supply that report. But if reasonable, you can request for good reasons the extension. But yeah, other than that, Chair, I'll have to really come and carefully consider the wording and the comment by National.
Yeah, I can just say that the current wording does include under B2 a period specified in the notice. It is just under 1A, which is silent on period. It says the minister may, in respect of an investigation area contemplated, cause a site assessment to be conducted in respect of the relevant investigation area. Perhaps honourable members, if we could say, well, obviously the minister could, in any case, probably set time limits.
Yeah, Chair, Paul Hardcastle here. You can always say the site assessment, submit the site assessment report within a time period specified. So you can always add that to the wording.
Yes. Yes.
Require a site assessment to be conducted in respect of the relevant investigation area within a specified time, and submit the site report and remediation plan, if applicable, to the Minister and his MEC. So you can add there the requirement for a specified time, maybe.
Yeah, I'll support that. Thank you. That gives the necessary, you know, it's not like 90 days or 6 months or so. If a period is, if different water levels, winter and summer should be considered, then hopefully, you know, the minister will say, please do that within 18 months or something to that effect. Okay. Then, if we continue on to still clause 65, CR also said that the contaminated land register, they said to us in their oral submission that they have problems to access that register. And the National Department has actually said no, but that register is available on the internet. So let me just see if we can have this here, whether they also did it in their written comments. They say, furthermore, as the bill intends to do away with the contaminated land register for investigation areas, provision should be made for public notice under section 37, where land has been identified as investigation area. And now the department's response is, the intention was never to make a register of investigation areas, as investigation areas would be cleared from having contaminated nation on it by way of a site assessment. So the intention always was to have a register of contaminated land. So it's not land under investigation, of contaminated land.
Chair,
to make investigation areas available, to the public infringes on the rights of persons as well as reputational harm to those whose land may be under investigation, but proves to be not to be contaminated.
Chair, I kind of agree with National in that one must be very careful in how we deal. And if a site is under investigation and it is on a register, it may have significant implications for the landowner or person in control of that land. And if it then deems not to be the case, then that damage maybe have been done already. So I understand the comment made by National, and I agree that it's not land in investigation that should be on a database and made available to the public, but only contaminated land.
Good. I accept it, and I trust that the silence from the members said that they also then, we want to step then off clause 65, which brings us to 66. Listening.
Chair, I agree with the provincial department, and I think that it would be a appropriate middle ground between the CER submission as well as the national department, so that we ensure that persons aren't defamed during the investigation, but that we only then publish that the end of the respective investigations.
Good, thank you. And then on the next clause, just a few comments again from the CER. The first one is where they are not happy with the words, if applicable, when it comes to the remediation plan. I believe that well, they say it should create ambiguity which should be urgently remedied to clarify the circumstances in which a remediation plan is required and what it should contain. The provision must expressly state that the Minister or MEC's decision made under this provision must be published in the Gazette and made available online. And again, the department's response is, you know, if the person is not, can I use the word guilty, it's found not to be contaminated, then it should not be published. And I think what Honourable Bartman has just said is that it's a principle that she will support. Good. The CR also asks for a definition, a better definition for the word contaminated, which is something which crops up quite often in this legislation. Let me just see if we've got a definition for contaminated land. It seems not to. Contaminated means the presence in or under any land, whatever, that is normally present with substance of or microorganism directly or indirectly affects or may affect the quality of soil or the environment adversely. So it's the presence in or under any land of a substance or microorganism above the concentration that is normally present in or under that land. Mr. Hardcastle, do you believe that that definition allows you to act when necessary?
Chair, this is a minefield, and I understand the definition, and I've been part of debates on the definition. It's a little bit of a minefield, and I live with the definition as it stands, and do not at this moment in time have a better definition for it. And if somebody doesn't come up with a better definition, and I'm not going to try to frame such a definition now, I'll accept what is in the legislation.
Okay. And unfortunately, the CR also didn't serve us with the definition which that they would like us to replace the current one with. Okay. Could the department of the view that the definition is clear enough? Okay. Then that deals then with that clause, honourable members. So we can go on to clause then 68, which I submit is supported. 69 supported, 70 supported, 71, section 54 of the National Environmental Management Waste Act. It is amended by the insertion after subsection 2 of the following subsection. The variation of a waste management license is subject to the payment of a prescribed processing fee. And from province's side, you've said, now what if the people don't pay? If I'm correct, Mr. Hardcastle, my understanding is if you don't pay, you don't get a variation of a waste management license. And then you may be in contravention.
Yes, Chair, I just noticed National's response also. The requirement for variation application includes payment of the prescribed fee. In the event of non-payment, the application for variation will not be processed as it does not meet the requirements. So their explanation is that, well, if you don't receive payment, you don't proceed with the evaluation of the application or the processing of the application. Then, Chair, I'm not sure if that is needed. It needs an amendment. It's an explanation of that. Certainly, if you ask me, is also the interpretation of any application. If you don't pay the application fee, you don't commence with the processing of So I don't think that is. Yeah.
Then you're in breach, and then you get a fine, or you go to jail, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Well, if you proceed illegally with that
Yes.
with that activity, then you're in breach. But if you apply and you don't pay the application fee, your application won't be processed any further, and that's, I think, a general understanding for any application process.
Yes, but and if it isn't processed, then you're most probably end up being in breach of because then you don't have a license.
Yes, Chair. If you then commence, then you will be in breach. I agree.
Correct. Okay. So we accept that clause as proposed. 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, and 79, 80, 81, and 82. Well, 81. We support all of that unless somebody wants to speak on it. Then that brings us to 82, transitional provisions, and they in line 41, 42, and further, it says, and now we're dealing with the National Environmental Management Amendment Act of 2008, and deals here with mineral and petroleum extraction and so on. And it says a right, I'm reading from line 34, a right, permit or exemption required for prospecting or exploration or extraction. Honorable Hartman.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I know you have been reading out clause 82, but I just wanted to find out whether we dealt with the proposed amendment by the province regarding section 56 that deals with the substitutions of sections 34G and 34F. I know we've previously dealt with them in as well, but this one is specific regarding the good governance of the Bureau.
Sorry, yes, thank you for highlighting that. That's the province's comments where you've proposed that provision is made to improve and ensure good governance of the Bureau, and that the changes made in this regard, in this bill, to omit the substitution of sections 34G and 34F are reconsidered. And the department's response has been the provisions, are we now on the same page? The provisions related to governance measures for the SOEs have been standardized for uniformity, and the financial controls are still there as part of new amendments. Is that the paragraph that you're referring to, Honorable Bartman?
Yes, Chairperson. I just would like to know whether the provincial department is satisfied with the answer from National, or whether they feel that their proposal is still valid given the answer. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Mr. Hardcastle.
Chair, can I come back to you on that one? I note National's comment, and that it's been standardized for uniformity, and the financial controls in section 34F and G are still there as part of the new amendments. I just want to go and double check that against the comment. So, Chair, I think if that is the case, we will be satisfied. I just want to go and double check that, and that we are not missing something.
Good. Thank you very much. Now, Honorable Bartman, are you happy if we move on to clause 80?
I'm happy. Thank you.
81. The department just pointed out that consequential amendments must be made. You say there's still reference made to Schedule 3 in section 58J. and it's proposed that all consequential amendments are checked for and effected. So Schedule 3 of the NEMWA Waste Act is supported, but you say that it still refers to Schedule 3 in the original Act.
Yes, Chair, and I think National agreed that there's consequential amendments that must be made. So, I think, the comment stands, and I agree with us, Chair.
Good. I'm just wondering whether we should be able to point out to them where there are more references to Schedule 3, for example, under the definitions and so on. Schedule 3 is even included in there. So perhaps Ms. Niekerk can just refer to, reference to Schedule 3 in the definitions. Good. Then if we can move on to clause 82, or is there other clauses that may have missed that needs our attention? Okay. 80.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Chair, I disappeared. I apologize. I disappeared. I don't know if you heard me, but apart from doing a word search, that's the only way we'll find out if there's consequential changes missed.
Yes, and there may be more than just reference to Schedule 3, but at least I think we can use that one to highlight to the department our concerns in this regard, or that it needs some fine proofreading. Good. Can we go to clause 82? Still NEMA, 12, and this is, I think, transitional provisions dealing with prior to December 2014, and there, when it deals now with Mineral and Petroleum Resources Development Act, where I think certain rights have been obtained, and it says here in line 42, in such right has been obtained and activities authorized in such environmental authorization, waste management license, right permit or exemption, such rights are regarded as fulfilling the requirements of this Act, provided that where an application for an environmental authorization or waste management license was refused, this subsection does not apply. This is now the subsection dealing with transitional provisions. So from the department, you've said that you do not support this. And then the department said an EMPR will be regarded as an EMPR only and not for an environmental authorization.
Chair, yeah, thanks. Look, this is a little bit of a long-winded one, and it's linked to the old argument of the fight between environmental affairs or environmental matters and mining matters. And the wording of the transitional arrangements was not clear because there was some championing done that an EMPR must be considered as an environmental authorization. And we very expressly did not support that. And the wording in the transitional arrangements and even in the amendments proposed in the bill was not clear, and we wanted to clarify that. Look, I mean, an EMPR is not considered as an EA, and know that we're all on the same page. Now, the National have now come back and confirmed that an EMPR is regarded only as an EMPR and not as an environmental authorization, which we are extremely happy about, and I hope that this interpretation is clear to all the readers. And I think the CER also commented in the same vein now that there isn't a confusion. Yet our belief is that the wording can be confusing. If we can come up with a better wording to clarify that confusion, I'll have to look into it, because National simply clarified the interpretation but didn't propose a specific wording. Neither did we. Chair, all I can say is I can look at it and see if we can maybe change one specific or a specific clause in it. If not, we will say so when we come back to you, Chair. Anik, I don't know if you've got anything to add to this.
No, Paul, I don't. But maybe just to note that in response to CER's comments regarding the ambiguity and the vagueness of the provision, National did note that consideration can be given to remove the ambiguity. So I think they also agree that it can be clarified a bit more.
Okay, Chair, that's also welcomed. Then, interestingly, they gave us a different response than to CER, although we raised the same issue. But I'm happy, and Chair, what we can do is we can see if we can come up with a wording. If not, then we will definitely highlight that it must be amended. But I don't have a specific wording at this moment in time. We'll have to come back to you.
Good, thank you.
Chairperson, Deidre Bart.
Honourable Barton, please.
Chairperson, given the comprehensive comment regarding the vagueness that the Provincial Department as well as the CER has made regarding this particular clause, it is important for us to remember that it is unlikely for the clause to be amended if no one comes up with the wording for it to be amended. Yes. Because then it doesn't matter if we just say it must be amended, that the National Department is going to come back to us and say, okay, you have a problem with it, now make a proposal. So I'm happy that the Provincial Department will be going back to go see how they can amend it, but I would like to urge them for this particular clause to be one of their priorities, given the extensive and comprehensive comments both there as the Provincial Department and the CER has made. Otherwise, we can forget about the National Department considering any proposals from us. Thank you, Chairperson.
Chair, Member Bartman's plea is noted. I agree. This is an important one. Hopefully, we will come up with some wise wording, but we'll certainly give it an effort, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hardcastle. I don't know if you're able to make notes while you're talking as well, but thank you for that as well. Good. Honourable members, while we're with this bill, can I ask that we don't go back to the National Forest Amendment Bill now, but that we stay with this one, and that we just quickly look at what we last time supported, without having the benefit of the National Department's input as well. And the first one...
Chair, sorry, but I apologize, Chair. Yeah, I apologize for interrupting. I just want to confirm that the minutes will also pick up on where you want us to propose a specific wording. So can I confirm that we will also rely on the minutes to highlight this?
Correct, but there's just one problem, and that is that we need to finalize our position by next week on Tuesday, and it often takes the minutes, to understand, a day or two to be finalized. And I was about to propose that we ask you whether you would be able to serve us with, you know, those brilliant wordings, etc., by the end of this week, because we are under time constraint with the Provincial Parliament going into constituency week from the 21st of September. So I don't know, Ms. Nikak, you must help us. Between the two of us, we discussed the issue that today would be the last day for major deliberations. Next week we hope to finalize, and then she must send it off to the NCOP, and I think that must be there by before the end of this month.
That's correct, Chairperson, yes.
So we will have an opportunity after next week and Tuesday to be able to formulate our final mandate, Mr. Hardcastle. But obviously the recording of this meeting would also be available, and that would be available, I almost want to say, immediately after the meeting.
Yes, Chair. Look, I mean, we've made a few notes and so on also, and I hope Aniek also did so, but we just wanted to double check that there is not a misunderstanding between us and you. We will obviously start working on this. My recommendation would be that we will, by the latest, because other than the normal view is that we do work over weekends, and we've got quite a substantive amount of law reform to get through this week already. But we will start working on this. But at the latest Monday morning, can we then propose that we give you a draft? Give us just time, because the weekend will have to be used to try to finalize on a lot of these issues.
I feel for you. Thank you. Yes. So what you're actually saying is we will have less work to do over the weekend. Thank you. Okay. So, honourable members, just to go back, last time around, the first clause that we eventually proposed a change or an input was clause 4, which is on page 7 of the document. We're now going back to our meeting last just to see what has happened in the meantime with the National Department's input as well. And there we, in terms of clause 4, page 7, it was a very small, but we believe significant change, and that is that the word subsection 3 should be inserted in line 32. It said contemplated in subsections 2 and 2B and 3 may be dealt with by the MEC. Now you must please help me, Ms. Nikak. Where will I find the department's comments on that one quickly? I think it was an input also from the province.
Aniek, I don't know, can you maybe just reflect on, because we did look at that, Chair, and Aniek, will you just take the lead quickly in discussing our comment on that?
Yes, Paul. So, Chair, I was unfortunately not in the last meeting where this issue was discussed, but I had a look at your proposal to insert a reference to subsection 3 in that line 32 on page 7. So this is already subsection 3, that where you propose to insert a reference to subsection 3. So for me, I don't see how that's going to remedy. I can go back to our original comment and then take you through, but maybe just to be brief, that including a reference to subsection 3 in subsection 3 does not make sense to me and would not actually resolve the issue now. And also subsection 3 deals with the scope of when an agreement can be reached, and not actually with identifying the relevant competent authority for a national priority, which is more where our concern lies, not with the scope of when an agreement can be reached, which the bill actually in fact proposes to expand, which we do support, if that makes sense.
Chair, maybe also safe to say, I think the concern that you had that we also had is dealt with to a certain extent with the reference to subsections 2 and 2 big B. especially to 2 big B. That is so, Chair, I don't think that if we don't add that section 3, that we are losing something that we were really concerned about.
Good, thank you. So that on that one, I propose, honourable members, that we change our position. Then the next one is clause 5 on page 8, line 61. There we wanted the word compile to be deleted. Compile an environmental management program. Perhaps we can just quickly see what the response by the department was on that one. 24. Ms. Nikat, you must help me. Where will we find this now?
Well, Chairperson, that was recommendations from the last meeting, and the department is here to respond now. But just remember, just on page 8, the clause 5, line 61, the proposal, the recommendation from the committee was that the word compile be deleted, but then also the requirements to compile an environmental management program be a separate requirement that is captured in a new and separate provision and not under the reference EE in terms of the section 24G.
Yeah, Chair, and may I just say is that if I, from memory, serve me right, National agreed to this as a separate clause, Anik, just remind me, we did not provide it now as a separate clause, or but we can certainly do that, and you'll also have that by Monday.
Yes, Paul, I confirm that that wasn't one of the issues that was specifically highlighted, but we can include it in the list of things that we will provide by Monday.
Yeah, but it is also supported by National in that way, Chair, so I don't think it's controversial, and it's just a drafting change in the way that it's drafted. So we will deal with it, Chair. We will deal with it, and you'll have it by Monday morning.
Good. So it's about the line 61. Good.
Becoming a separate provision, so it will not now be part of the previous provision. It will stand on its own, and that is a small way that in which it's a drafting issue, but it will have significant effect in how you then interpret it, and its legal effect will be different.
Good. Then clause 8, in terms of clause 8, we actually requested that 24P3 be further, you proposed that 24P3 be further amended to align with 24P8 in terms of the review for financial provision, and you proposed that the new subclause be inserted that enables a review to take place. Review of the financial provision from time to time.
Yes, Chair, that was done. With legal services assistance. Anik, do you want to come in here?
Yes, Paul, I can. So yes, in response, we have drafted a proposed provision. Would you like us to send that to you, Chair, or can I read it now? Is that?
You could read it.
Yes.
Is it a new paragraph wording for 24P8?
It will be a new wording for section 24P subsection 2. So it's taking the existing section 24P subsection 2 that's proposed in the bill, and just adding the requirement that the the Minister or an MEC in concurrence with the Minister may prescribe not only instances where financial provision must be determined, but also when that financial provision as determined must be reviewed. Yes, so currently, so what we propose, I'm just going to quickly read it. The Minister or an MEC in concurrence with the Minister may prescribe, and then we've done an M dash and then a subsection A, instances for which financial provision must be determined and provided for listed or specified activities, semicolon, and then a subsection B, reviews of the financial provision as determined in paragraph A. So it's in line with the existing 24P subsection 2, but we just explicitly bringing in the option to actually provide for a review of the financial provision as determined.
Thank you. I'm happy with that. Thank you so much. And then can I just ask, some other homework that we gave you was regarding clause 30, where we asked, and honourable members, we've just gone past 12 o'clock, so we will have to close now. But on clause 30, where it deals with the live specimens that has been seized, and where I think you said that sometimes there's no other option but that the live specimen may have to be disposed of, but that this should not be, you know, where there are other options available, and where there may be a suitable institution, and where the specimen may still be in a condition to be kept alive, that should be the first option, I almost want to say. Have you been able to formulate something on that?
Annie, can you maybe come in here?
Yes, Chair. So we obviously, subsequent to the previous meeting, we received National's response to, so in our comments, we just queried the rationale for changing the must to a may. But subsequently, we've obviously received National's response, and given National's response and the various situations and various specimens, we do agree in retrospect with changing the must to a may based on DIA's or the National Department's feedback in this regard. Maybe I'm just trying to find the clause quickly so that I can just maybe read the National Department's response.
Yes.
I'm not sure whether you've had a look at that.
I see they say there that sometimes such specimens could be wild and not able to survive in captivity, infected or injured to such a state that they may need to be euthanized or quarantined. And this, together with the lack of EMI holding facilities, requires greater flexibility. But I think the most important thing is that they say a standard operating procedure is in place to require the taking of appropriate DNA samples or consultation with a vet where appropriate.
Yes.
Yeah, Chair, and what I want to also highlight is that I think what is important in terms of the various MinTech working groups where cooperative governance is dealt with. This was an agreement with all of these provinces and working groups. And it seems that this is the flexibility and explanation by National that flexibility is needed, and that through an MOU or operating, they call it the SOP, standard operating procedures, this would be a better way of dealing with this rather than being very fixed in terms of a must.
Correct. So we parked that one, and what I hear from you is that you, now having received the input from National, that you say you are happy for it to remain as proposed in the bill.
Yes, Chair.
Good. Thank you very much. Honourable members, we've run out of time, unfortunately, and I'm actually just quickly looking at next week's program, because I believe that we may have a time problem in that we need to finalize this next week. And on the other hand, that the 3 hours normally allowed for such an intensive process or big task may not be enough for us to deal with that within the time allowed. Now, I see that our meeting is scheduled from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and I was wondering, Ms. Niekerk, if we could warn all members that that meeting may run considerably over time next week. Would that be possible?
That's fine, Chairperson. Alternatively, I can also have a look at the parliamentary program and see if there's not maybe an additional slot that we could use that week.
If needed. Okay,
yeah.
Good.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. And then, honourable members, are you willing for us to adopt the minutes of our last meeting, as was circulated, as the last item on our agenda today?
Happy, Chair.
Thank you. So, honourable members, I put to you page 1. This is now the minutes of our meeting of Tuesday, the 25th of August, 2020, at 9 o'clock. It was almost trying to say exactly 2 weeks ago. Page 1, I see members present with America who was standing in, I think, for Ms. Bartman, who was not well, Maseko and myself. And the apologies were received from the other members. And then the following persons were in attendance. I think it's correctly listed there. So that deals with page 1. Page 2. And then page 3. Honourable members, I think it's only myself and Honourable Maseko who would be able to confirm whether this is an accurate version.
Yes,
Honourable Maseko, can I call on you?
Yes, that is in order. Propose that we approve, Chair.
Thank you, and I will then second that. And with that, the minutes have been adopted. And our procedural officer, can I now close this meeting? We haven't completely been able to get through our agenda, but as I've said, this was only scheduled until 12 o'clock, and I do know there's a webinar that actually started at 12 that members would also like perhaps to attend. So with that, honourable member, I just don't want to adjourn before Ms. Niekerk has said it's fine. Is it fine?
It's fine, Chairperson. All in order. Thank you.
Okay. Perhaps I think the one thing that we must just now, as a resolution, is that we request the department to submit those alternate wordings as quickly as possible, but not later than next week and Monday. Would that be fine?
Yes, Chair.
As a resolution from this meeting. And then with that, honourable members, I want to say thank you very much again for your engagement. Very much thanks to those that advise us in this regard, and a particular word to Ms. Niekerk. And with that, our meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. I see some of you